I speak a little bit Russian, but not that much, so I would be comfortable in presenting this topic in Russian. So before we start, just trying to think of what is the dynamics of this audience. Game designers, are you here? So, okay, aspiring game designers, so those who want to be a game designers, developers, artists, okay, and other people. So it applies. So this is like the topic is about game design, but you can apply the philosophy of it to any sphere you're working in. So, hello, my name is Gediminas Tarasevicius. I'm a game designer at Nordcurrent. Nordcurrent is a Lithuanian game developer and publisher, or European game developer and publisher, with 200 people working in 3 offices in Vilnius, Warsaw, and Odessa. Our flagship titles are Cooking Fever, the addictive time management game. We have like mid-core title Sniper Arena, with like a lot of action, PvP action, and a lot of good monetization. And just recently, we also released a hidden object game with a really great story, a lot of narrative, a lot of fully voiced, with a lot of exciting twists and turns and interesting interesting development of the story the game presents. And you can download and try it for free anytime you want. So, being a game designer at Nordcurrent or being a game designer in any other company, it's like taming a really special beast or fighting a really awesome boss in some MMORPG game. So it's exciting, and at the same time it's really challenging, because in free-to-play mobile games, like, the trends are always changing, the players always change, the audience is always growing, and new audiences are joining the player base of all the world. And at the same time, we as a game designers have to balance not only our games, but also to balance those like 3, to find this good point where all those 3 things, business expectations, players' aspirations, and our personal motivations in being a game designer, where interconnect, and in the end, everybody gets a value from it. So business strives for profit, sustainability. The players want to have the free entertainment, and you as a game designer, you always aspire to be better at what you're doing, and in the process gain more knowledge and more experience, and then you can make better games. So with this challenge in mind, there is like a need to have a good philosophy or good process of how we can make better games. And to implement, to show how I present this idea, I will use this old meme, but it kind of explains everything. So we, as a designers, have like a lot of responsibilities, and sometimes some responsibilities are overlooked from our point of view. But being a good game designer is being a good all-around person, professional in what you're doing. With challenges in the game design, challenges in the market, we need to come up with better, effective, and sustainable way to design our games to meet the goals I showed in the previous slide. So I would like to propose a lean game design idea. And lean game design idea combines 2 methods, or 2 ideas of project development. It's design thinking and lean method. So for those who do not know, I just design thinking in itself is really a good way of solving problems we as a designers have, because design thinking is basically always running cycle of 3 steps. At the first step, you come up with the idea, then you implement it, and then you try the implementation, and then you gain new knowledge and make changes to your design, and you go towards the solution of the problem you have in your game design. And game design problems are really hard problems. They are really hard to solve. You cannot take a list and, okay, this is like a list. I do this list and I make a successful game which everybody loves, everybody plays, and everybody pays. So this is like cycle, cycle, cycle. So lean method comes in, as lean method is all about the efficiency and removing the waste from production and from design. So we put like the philosophy of lean into how we can, so lean game design is all about how you can, as a game designer, to make game design decisions that maximize player engagement, improve lifetime value, and minimize development waste. So those goals, those 3 goals, they kind of reflect in this description. How can you achieve lean game design? So you have in mind that this is just like the idea, or more like a philosophy, which I use in my daily work. Before game development, I spent a lot of time in online marketing. Then I had positions as a product designer, as user experience designer, and these principles like go from each sector, and you can apply to any sector. But especially in game development, because like game developers or game development or publishing companies, they kind of just taking all this expertise from other sectors just now. So it's a good way to do it. So I define lean game design by principles and by techniques. So the principles are like the starting points when you start designing your game. And they kind of help you to set your goals. So instead of doing something about something and something come up in the end, you set up the goals. And to set those goals, you need to find what will your game design decisions will be based off. And as I present the principles, you can also, in your work, you can find new principles and later use in the future projects. And I also introduce you to several techniques you can do when implementing those principles in your game design work. So, principle number 1, lean game design is player-centric. If you are familiar with user experience field, which is getting a lot of traction nowadays, and this is like the main thing, like user experience, users must feel good. In lean game design, the same goes about the player. Player is at the center of your game. You are doing everything to make player feel better. You do everything to understand your player and do the best possible experience for him or she or her. Principle number 2, only meaningful game systems. Only meaningful game systems should follow in 3 brackets. They are meaningful for business. So this mechanic is useful because we get some business result from it. This game system, this game mechanic is useful for the player because the player really likes this game system and he wants that system to be there. And also, the other system could be like this system supports other game systems, and without it you cannot implement others. So basically, only meaningful game systems. So if you come up with some mechanics which doesn't have any meaning in your game, you just drop it. Principle number 3, lean game design is KPI oriented. So before making the game, you must decide what is your goal, how you measure your success in your game or in your game design. And KPI is key performance indicator. So if you are in free-to-play, in free-to-play you can just select some numbers. If you like indie, you can select like, I would like to get 10,000 YouTube views or something like that. So you set the goals. Lean game design is data-driven. So you need data. You need to collect data to know, are you hitting those KPIs? So you always have to collect the data and also to analyze that data. And principle number 5, lean game design is future-proof. Future-proof doesn't mean that you create your game design or come up with the idea of the game design which covers all possible aspects, but from the point that you come up with a game design which can be easily changed during the process, during the changes in the market. So we can adapt it as quickly as possible to any situation that occurs. Okay, let's go to the techniques. I won't list them because I will go through them. There are 8, and let's go to the first. Research and empathize. It's the main breath of any game designer. If you're making a game, you have to define which player you're making this game for. You cannot make the game for everybody. You have to think about who is my player, what emotions my player will feel in my game, what is the most fun activity for this player, so I can implement the mechanics which give this activity to the player. And what are the player struggles? You can do that by analyzing available open data platforms for similar games, checking the reviews from your competition. Okay, so if you make some, I don't know, real-time strategy game, then you check what are the reviews on Steam or on App Store of this game. You are kind of thinking of similar audience, and then you just read what the players tell, what is wrong, what is bad about this game, and then you make your decisions with this new game. It's like a Blizzard approach, so we don't come up with new ideas, we just take the idea somebody come up with, and then we perfect them to maximum. Technique number 2 is being ruthless to your preconceptions. Preconceptions is knowledge out of date, and you as a game designer need knowledge that is up to date. So do not ever think that, okay, I will do this like this because I think that it should be done like this. Like some fact which you kind of, it's like axiom that I will do is because I cannot do it in the other way. You always have to question yourself. Why are you doing this? What is the reason for doing this? Not just doing like without any thinking, like we do it like this, it's shooter and 3 guns and that's it. Why? Technique number 3 is design as a player and play as a designer. That means that you as a game designer, and there are a number of game designers which do not play a lot of games. You have to always play different games, a lot of games. And at the same time, you always have to look, when you play those games, what emotions those games evoke and what mechanics are behind those emotions. And then you just transfer that knowledge to your game if you want the game you're making to evoke the similar emotions. Technique number 4, lean documentation. I won't be like long about it. The less text, the better. You just do this approach, more flowcharts, more easy to understand schemes, how your game works. I'm not talking about story, about scenario. It's not game documentation. It's just the content. But documentation has to be short, like IKEA furniture list, how to build it, or just a manual for car, which has some kind of pictures, how you can fix something. So be lean, just the most important aspects. Technique number 5, it's about the communication. You have to put everybody on your team on the same page. Game development is a team affair. A lot of people are making games. Of course, if you're a single developer and doing your own game, you can do whatever you want. It's your kind of way of living life. But when you do a game with more people, you really have to communicate. You have to tell the team what are the arguments behind your game design decisions. Why we are doing this. Because when other person in your team, the developer, understands why we're doing this, he more probably will put an extra effort by transferring your ideas into the game. Technique number 6 for game designers: no answers to all whys. So you know this traditional story. If somebody wakes you up in the middle of the night and asks something, so that's how you have to think about your game. If this situation occurs and somebody asks why this is in your game, you always have to have that answer. And if you don't have that answer, then you may question, is this thing at all needed in your game? Is that clear so far? Yeah? Okay. Technique number 7, be prepared for the worst. This is the recommendation for the book. You can read about it, The Black Swan by Nassim Nicholas Taleb. And basically, the idea of this book is that the future is unpredictable, so we have to prepare to like a worst scenario of it. And that's the same goes with your game design. When you're designing the thing, you do not hope that, oh, I will do it like this. Okay, we are good. We will do it like this, and maybe the players will love it, and then we have a success. You cannot just go and leave it like this. You have to identify, because you as a game designer, you are creator of this game design. You have to know everything about this. And when you know everything about this, you always know what are the weak points in your game design. With your knowledge you get using previous techniques, you almost always know the weak points. And when you know weak points, you can always come up with the ideas. What will you do if this fail will happen? So if you do not meet KPIs you set at the beginning, I mean, you launch the game, you expect some KPIs, but even before getting the first data, you always have to think, okay, if I will not do that, what will be my next step? So then you kind of have no lag. Instantly you get the data, you see that everything is okay, you proceed. If you see the data it's not okay, then you instantly can implement the change and kind of minimize the impact of that failure. Technique number 8, it applies to not only to game design, but also to investment and to everything in life. So when the risk is low, you have to break the rules. And that's simply as that. So if you see that there is some game design decision you can make and you understand that, well, the impact will be minimal, then you can just go for it, because like the outcome, the results may be really huge in those terms. But if you see that, so what to do with a big risk? When you have a big risk, you have to minimize the scope, like to control the consequences. So if you have the audience of 100,000 players, for example, and you come up with a decision which may kind of have a huge impact of your results. So the idea is just to select a part of that audience, 1,000 people, 500 people, and then make this big risk on small audience. And then if you see that this risk succeeds, of course, if you fail in this risk, then you're kind of losing this audience. But it's a small audience to lose. So, and if you have the positive effect, of course you amplify it. You use on your whole audience. And so, in the end, you will always have a better game. You gain a lot of new knowledge. You have a better motivated team. You have refined development scope, decision-making agility, development agility, and waste control. And that's basically what lane game design idea is. So now I can take your questions if you have, and I can take them in Russian.
Также хочу напомнить, Gediminas понимает по-русски, поэтому кто хочет, может по-русски задавать вопросы. Пожалуйста, поднимайте руку и задавайте все вопросы, пожалуйста, в микрофон, так как осуществляется запись в том числе и вопросов. Так, с кого?
Добрый день, Павел Ананьев из Smellsoft. Скажите, вы в Nordcurrent делаете прототипы игр новых, возможно, или механик каких-то? Можете рассказать про это?
Да, делаем.
Расскажите подробнее, сколько занимает в среднем прототип игры, и как вы потом, ну, какие KPI, понятно, что retention, но, возможно, с цифрами, вы оцениваете, что вы делаете вот вообще в целом?
По поводу KPI с прототипами, ну, с прототипами KPI не совсем конкретный, так как тебе нужна как бы конкретная информация, конкретные цифры, и мы не делаем как бы тестирование прототипов с игроками или с какой-то маленькой аудиторией. То есть прототип это внутренний в компании проходит как бы approval процесс, и в нем участвуют дизайнеры, и если мы видим, что этот прототип по большей степени бывает только как бы core gameplay element, то есть то, что самое мясо игры. И если это проходит, то тогда мы можем двинуться с этой игрой, добавлять другие системы, которые как бы, например, метагейм или дополнительный контент, но прототип, мы не, то есть KPI это в этом сценарии очень такой размытый. Это фан, чтобы было фан, чтобы дало эмоцию игра.
Mikita Lauretsky for iLab Game Designer. You speak about lean game design. Here I am.
Oh. No, to my right. Okay.
You speak about lean game design, and in what happens in the moment you understand that the game will succeed. The game has a great possibility to succeed, but there is a point when your game design shouldn't be lean, when you have to make more expenses, make some extra work, but it is a great, but you feel the great chance, but you can't prove it.
Okay, so in your question, you are talking about the game which is already released, and when
No, I'm talking about a game which is in progress, and you feel that if you make more efforts, if you make a step away from your lean game design pipeline, it's very high risk, but if it succeeds, it may be, I don't say revolution, but a breakout.
So you don't get the data until you have some player tests or some player surveys or some like closed tests with the players and getting their opinion. Then you get a big chunk of another data during the soft launch, and during the soft launch is like lean approach is really good because you kind of you soft launch the game, you get the first numbers, and you already have a plan. So if those numbers do not meet the requirements, what will you do? So if you see like there is a drop off at the beginning at the tutorial, and you totally like, and beforehand you kind of check that maybe the texts are wrong or too much text, and the players are not interested in reading the text and proceeding the tutorial, and they just close on an install game. So in those cases, you kind of getting the data, you make the decision like instantly. And so during the soft launch, it's still lean, but when the game is released, it's all about like, not about the lean, but just about which content or which features in your game will be cost effective. So how much a player costs to come to your game, and how this feature will have a return of investment. So it's all about the numbers and the money, the money and the numbers the players send to your analytics system.
Thank you.